Donato versus Kalevi. French versus HRE. Alright, and welcome back to a French versus HRE matchup between Donato and Kalevi on Hillendale? Is it? No. What map's this? Altai? Is it? I don't know what the map is. I actually do not know. I'm not new to AoE 4. I was going to say AoEO. I'm not new to AoEO. I've played that shit for years. But anyway. Kalevi on HRE. And I like this because the Prelate's able to empower 7 vills, or 6 vills straight off the bat, and it'll soon be 7 or 8. And he's gone for a second scout to clean up everything at home and then head back out. Well, the first scout is actually out in the map, trying to cut off Donato, which I think is a good idea. I don't really know that there's no sheep here to really go for though. On this side, well, there's a couple more over here. There's a few more over in this little section. So Donato, I think, has just gone for the 1 scout, which is interesting. Being French, you've actually probably got more pressure on you to do really well with your sheep game than any other civ, because, you know, yes, while you do want to get wheelbarrow, it's sort of not as essential as English, and you sort of want to delay wood gathering as long as possible early on anyway, because you're very food and gold intensive. And on top of that, it's a good idea to get a perfect read of your opponent's resource layouts around their base as early as possible, while also still trying to outmuscle your opponent on the sheep game. The HRE player obviously still wants sheep, but the second scout's mostly, I think, to really just keep tabs on when the first night, and when eventually the second and third night are out in the map and going to be a pain in the ass for you, and really just deny the French player the chance to get a million sheep and delay having to transition onto their first, then their second hunt, and then onto the berries as long as possible. Because yeah, like I said, French, it's fucking expensive to get those knights, man. They're 240 resources, which is 3 times the cost of some of the other Age 2 units. Like, spearmen and non-English archers are going to cost a third of what a knight's going to cost, and a single spear can actually fight a knight well. It can't fight a pair of knights, but it can fight a knight well enough. So, you know, a French player really wants to be careful they don't throw anything away early. They don't have to expand onto the hunts terribly early. But I like this from Donato. He's actually focusing down focusing down deer roughly where he wants to get the mill, because then later on he really only needs to send a scout or send a vill to push 1 deer back into a good spot, and he's got a perfect deer set up there. Committing to 5 vills rather than 2 or 3 or 4 even on the School of Cav. Really about 3 vills is what you want generally. Maybe 4 or 5 if you're Rus or HRE, trying to cram the Archon as quickly as possible because it's super efficient and it covers 3 resources. Like if this gold mine was over here alongside this hunt, that'd be perfect. Or if he had his, you know, had it all down the bottom here, so you could have like food, gold, wood all in one. Or even if he had it opened on the hunt and then moved onto the sheep later. I mean, he is going 2 scouts and doing reasonably well with his sheep finding here early on. So I think he's still going to get 2 resource archer in use for a long time here. But yeah, ideally, if you can get 3 resources, that's like a 10 out of 10 spawn, where you can have everything empowered with a single prelate. I did cast an earlier HRE game. I can't remember who it was by. I'll just have out and have a quick look. Yeah, Costa Benz it was, so against Mirus. So he actually opened on deer first, and I was a bit critical of the fact that he was actually moving between deer and a gold mine, but then he actually followed up with an archon and went on his sheep, and his woodline, his sheep, and his gold mine were all in range of the archon. It was hyper efficient, man. It was some cool shit. So Donato, he's got his, well, he's got that knight on the way. So he's actually finished up the School of Cav a little bit earlier than that Arch and Chapel's finished up. But there is already a barracks here, and there is already Spearman access from Age 1 for the HRE player. But it does actually mean they've got to get an extra upgrade tier on their Spearman as well. So that's an extra cost, but you know, in saying that, they do get to get the Spearman slightly faster themselves. But when I said a Spearman beats a knight, that's generally when you've got that tier 2 Spearman, which for the other civs is a tier 1 Spearman, other than for Mongols and yeah, HRE, and I don't know who else gets a starting Spearman. I know English don't, and I'm pretty sure French don't. I'm not 100% sure about that though. So I'd have to actually have a look at the tech trees. Guys, I'm pretty fucking wonky with my tech knowledge. So I pretty much just rely on clicking buttons pretty quickly. Not as quickly as the top level, but pretty quickly to get me out of trouble. So, Kalevi from here, finding out there's these annoying things called walls that HRE and English and Chinese players in particular love to throw up, because they'll throw them up till they make you throw up in order to make your raiding units, particularly on French and HRE, useless. But this knight is able to get, I think he's going to get the 3rd villager here, so even if he does fall from here, I think that's worth it because he's got 3 vills. Like if you lose 1 or 2, I don't think it's worth it, but if you get 3, I think it's okay to throw away the first knight. Yeah, I'm like, I wouldn't throw away the knight with any less than 2, well, any less than 3 villager kills, but yeah, 1 or 2 is just not justified. But in this position, he might even be able to get the charge and the kill off here. Yeah, he will, so this is great. The tower's going to get slowed, and 4 vills have fallen. The knight hasn't died at all. So Donato's really made a mess of Kalevi's early game. In a sense, he's not able to actually get a second barracks down yet, which is, you know, you sort of probably want to get a second barracks. Or get a range immediately at this point if you think the French player is immediately going to start producing the bows, which they generally will. And then, yeah, you get your own range to pick them off, or you can get your stables, and then you can open with another barracks just to really punish the knight movement. Because if you can kill all the knights, as long as you've got some archers of your own, or some horsemen of your own, the mix of them, and some spearmen, and some men-at-arms thrown in, if you can fit them in, will just overwhelm the French backline. But you need to be able to kill these knights, and you need to be able to deny the opportunity for them to get free villager kills around the map, because Donato now is up to 32 vills, 9 military, to 25 vills, and 12 military for Kalevi. So Kalevi's workers really efficient, because with the archon in power, they're going to outgather any other vill. The French villagers do train a little bit faster. And Donato getting snipes and not dropping knights for it. So far things are looking great for him. He's just going to keep these lower health knights back. He wants to use the full health knights to patrol with the scout and maybe try and dive somewhere. Obviously, Kalevi's actually set up this time that he's not going to bleed anything for free here unless he's really unattentive, but I think he's pretty much ready to go. He's even got the spears moved in front of the tower. So he's ready to block the charge, but he doesn't want to run the vills. Oh, he might overextend here. So he's brought some more spears up just to cover. That's not a bad idea, but in the meanwhile, Donato's tried to go for the tower. But Kalevi's done a great job in the sense that he's actually chased out the knights, covered the original spot, and then covered the most obvious spot for the French player to hit. So Kalevi killing that knight there has almost offset his early loss here, I think. So if he can do this once or twice more, where he basically successfully blocks knights and kills 1 or 2, while not really losing any gathering time and not really dropping any spears. Now he can really look at going for a quick age 3 and looking at adding some more production, because if he gets some more stables himself and really counters this ball of archers that goes up, he can actually sort of turn this around and pressure the French player even before he gets that castle age. But obviously he just wants to go towards a clean castle age where he's nice and secure at home, not dropping any more vills than he absolutely has to, or any buildings, and works towards getting a huge flood of man-at-arms, spears and crossbows, maybe even some of his own knights, and just overwhelms the French player with tech flexibility because he's managed to take a quicker age 3. So the scout gonna get picked. Ooh, the scout is gonna get out, I think, because these are only horsemen, so they're not gonna have quite that huge charge hit that the knights will. And if they run into knights, they can get cleaned up pretty quick. So Kalevi having to back off there. But meanwhile, we've got 2 rangers and basically the 2 stables there, and Donato's going to add siege engineering, but he's already gotten free bloomery being French, and he's already taken the age 1 melee upgrade, which I'll find out what that's called. Fitted leatherwork, while we've got iron under mesh coming out. The first upgrade from Kalevi is not actually the melee armor, but the ranged armor, because while yes, the knights have this huge hit, they actually aren't the most dominant unit here in terms of number in the comp. So, and on top of that, you know, the knights, if they charge your spears, if they stick around for any more than that initial charge, you instantly win the fight anyway. It's really only if they're able to charge in and literally get out because you weren't attacking them, because you've switched focus onto something else, that they really come out ahead. Or if you're sort of moving, focusing another unit. Other than that, yeah. So really, Kalevi just wants to try and keep his spears alive at this point, as well as, you know, whatever horsemen he tries to send onto the knights. Because the horsemen, because they aren't knights, the bows actually deal quite reasonable damage to them. They're only a light cavalry, whereas the knights, because they're a heavy cavalry, they can really charge ranged units without a problem. Engage going on down here, because Donato's tried to go for this early ram. But this is a hard fight for him to take in a sense, because there's that many spears now that he's got to constantly disengage with the knights and fight against favourable numbers, and make it easy for his bows to actually focus down the spears, which is what he's doing. And while he's actually focusing down the spears, his bow count's really been thinned out. So Donato ultimately able to pull back out there, having applied quite a bit of pressure and forcing Kalevi to have to clean up the ram, but the ram ultimately doesn't kill anything there. So I think Kalevi actually defended this quite well. I mean, the fact that the French player loses a ram for no buildings. He's in a nice spot though, Donato. Like, he's still up by about 18 pop. We've got 50 eco and 24 military for Donato to 39 eco and 19 military for Kalevi. I'm not sure if I missed any raids or anything going on there, but Kalevi dragging his feet slightly with the Vill count. But I mean, the French faster training Vills now. 3 seconds quicker train time than the HRE at 20 to 17. So Donato's going to try again. Oh, and this time one of the prelates is actually healing all the units. So Kalevi, I think that's the 2 prelates, and really probably could do... Yeah, could have done with a third and the gold through this, I think. He's probably struggling a little bit with that, but in saying that, he seems to be defending well, because Donato really eager to get these rams out, but so far not getting any value out of them. And now the bowman backline for the HRE players getting absolutely smothered. I mean, bowman backline for the French player, sorry, getting absolutely smothered by the HRE players. Horsemen here. There's still some spears in the mix. I don't think there's enough to really clean up the knights, because there's still a good number of knights there. So one of the beauties of actually letting your archers get sacrificed first is that the knights will regen when you disengage, whereas the archers won't. But now Donato's sort of using the ram to buy him some time here. Well, he can go back in and try and focus down the spears first, because if he can kill them first, he can actually stick around and take the fight. If he doesn't kill the spears first and focuses the horsemen, the spears will kill the knights and overwhelm him. But here he is able to now chip away at some of Kalevi's villages, or at least try and put some really good pressure on him, and still get out with a handful of the knights. I don't know if he really should have stuck around there at the end, but it was good of him to focus down the spears like that. But behind this, Kalevi has gone to age 3, so Regnitz Cathedral means if he can get control of any of the relics, if he can get a couple of gates thrown up and grab these relics quickly, although it might be a bit slow now, considering Donato's already got a scout there ready to go. And yeah, there's no gap in the wall, so Kalevi's going to actually have to delete a segment, which, having done this, now means that the wall's basically useless. And knowing that, he's focusing on trying to get the relic, Donato's going to move in here, and he might even send a single knight or a pair of bowmen to try and pick off that... Ooh, maybe not. So, looks like Kalevi is going to get away with grabbing the relic. But Donato's just said, bugger it, I'm going to push it, I'm going to punish you. So Donato's really applying the pressure to Kalevi, who's got to withdraw some knights just to make sure the prelate is going to be fine. And in the meanwhile, it means he's going to lose these villages, and it means these guys up here on the farms are eventually going to be under a bit of threat. While this ram is continuing to destroy structures here, and the lancers and the one spearman aren't going to be able to take down the ram terribly quickly. In fact, Donato deciding not to overextend onto the farm and just saying bugger it. I'll try and focus down the tower, but he probably just needs to get the archers out of here immediately. Maybe even better off sending them around the back way. Though he wouldn't get them all the way around, but just send them out of range, take the tower out, and then bring them around. But being HRE, Kalevi has activated his emergency repairs, which means that it basically has a second health pool. So it's given him the time to get some knights, try and take this down. So he's got triple gold generation of a regular relic, having gone for the Regnitz Cathedral. So really nice age up choice to try and boom his way through this, because I don't know if he's really got the resources to try and go for a Burgrave push behind this, which could also really upset the knights. But I think Kalevi's lost just a bit too much now, and just had a bit too much forced into garrisoning now, because he's down to 32 vills to Donato's 59 at this point. So I think Donato really only has to mount 1 or 2 more pushes, and it's going to be game from here, because even with that fast relic snatch there from Kalevi, Donato's now age 3. So he's gone, where's his third landmark? He's gone for the guild hall. We just saw him take his first stack of food out of it, but he's going to switch to gold gen, probably let it sit for a minute or two and then take the resources out, and maybe look at getting the relics himself, not letting the HRE player get them for free. But I don't know if he's going to have to wait that long, because he's actually just looking at massing up as many rams as possible while still increasing his army. And I think he needs to focus down the spears here, because Kalevi's doing a great job of maintaining a knight count through all this, and he's actually got the small advantage with that. And if he can get this spear onto the knights and get that bowman down, ooh, maybe not. So Kalevi has eventually got it back out here, but that fight went really, really well, I think, considering the fact that Donato would have had slightly more army heading into that and a lot more range. The rams just sort of inconsequential in the whole thing, but I guess they are a big 900 wood investment that mean that Donato doesn't have those resources spent on archers or on knights. But Kalevi again forced to garrison, and he's really on the back foot at the moment. He's down, well, 65 and 21 to 30 and 7, so he's got half the eco and a third of the army size of Donato at this point, which is really, really rough for him. And he's going to have that lead widened even further now, because the knights heading around, cutting down some villages. Only takes 3 hits, or only 2 now that they've got that upgrade. I think they'd have the second melee damage upgrade because the French player is now in Castle Age. Beauty of HRE, everything takes basically twice as long to kill with that emergency repairs bonus, but only one building every 45 seconds can benefit from that, I believe. Is it only one building or every building on the every 45 seconds? But crossbows being added, sorry, ARBs being added to the comp for Donato. I was going to say crossbows, but that's the equivalent for every civ other than French. And these guys are going to take down the knights extremely fast compared to the archers, while still being pretty good against the spearmen. I think the bowmen are much better against the spearmen because they're cheaper and they deal slightly more damage to the light units. Is that the case? Yeah, so they got 10. And GG is cool. So Donato steaming through to round 2. And Kalevi ducking out, going through the losers bracket.